Hello and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody's had a good week so far. Alright, well, without any further ado, since the gauntlet has been thrown and the Aozaki sisters are ready to go head to head, I guess we should jump right back in where we left off. Alright guys, here we go. With that thought in mind, he arrived at the clearing. Somehow his frantic breathing, his rising and lowering shoulders stopped. No exhaustion, no inertia, just blankness, like his mind was frozen in time. This was the second time he felt like this. But the nausea and dizziness from the first time, the pathetic whining of the last few weeks, the doubts clouding his mind, they were all gone. Displaced entirely from his mind by an even stronger emotion. His heart pounded with the force of a sledgehammer. It was a primal sound, loud enough to bring him to his senses. Shojyrou stepped into the clearing, letting out a deep but steady exhale. Although his eyes were locked with the blonde-haired boys, his concentration was focused inward. Be calm. Be calm. Every fiber of his being worked to control his breathing. The clearing told the story of Aoko and Alice's crushing defeat. Aoko was laying face up in the snow, her right leg bright red and crushed at the thigh. Her eyes were glazed over, but Shojyrou could tell she was still bravely fighting. Judging by her splurting, she had taken a hard blow to her chest or back. Shojyrou deduced it was most likely both. Alice's injuries seemed less serious than Aoko's, but she lay motionless on the ground nevertheless. She was laying across from Aoko, face down in the snow, arms out in front, as though pushing herself up was too painful. Before the old school building stood the figure of the mage he had seen before. Paying her no mind, Shojyrou began to walk forward. Feeling calmer since arriving at the clearing, he advanced towards Aoko. Touko did nothing to stop him. No one noticed, but the faintest look of worry flickered in her eyes.
お兄さんもその人たちの仲間?
The child werewolf spoke amicably, confident in his victory, and perhaps also eyeing up a new meal. Shojyrou ignored him and kept walking toward Aoko. The complete disregard wiped the smile from the boy's face. "Aw, is the little puppers being ignored?" Still, Shojyrou carried on. The beast's feelings were the last thing on his mind. Once he reached Aoko, he looked down at her with a pained expression on his face. Strangely, he was at a loss for words. After a slight hesitation, all he could manage to say was,
なってないぞ、生徒会長。行く時ぐらい声をかけるものだろう。
Really? You shouldn't have left without saying goodbye? That wasn't polite. That's what you have to say now? His awkward remark was half scolding and half affectionate.
このバカ。
Despite the pain in her stomach, Aoko was able to throw an insult his way.
安心した。余裕あるじゃないか、青崎。
His voice brightened as if buying her bravado. The truth was, she barely had the strength to live. Despite that, Shojyrou looked like he wanted to respond in his usual way. Something like, "See, Aozaki, you're too tough to die, even when someone kills you."
あんた。
As soon as she tried to speak, she ran out of breath. Shojyrou heard her loud and clear this time. He might have looked absent-minded, but he knew exactly how dangerous the situation was. Aoko knew because his carefree-sounding words did not match his expressionless face.
一体何のつもりで。
Before she could say doing, she coughed painfully. Shojyrou pressed his finger to his lips and nodded. Aoko could not quite believe it, but it looked as though Shojyrou had gestured to her not to speak.
だってほら、状況はあの時と一緒だ。君がやられたら、次はこっちの番なんだろう。だから協力をしに来たんじゃないか。まあ、何もできないのも、あの時と変わってはいないんだけど。
Aoko did not know what to say. She could only look up at him, amazed and awed. The werewolf stared at them, visibly frustrated. After all, he believed himself to be the noblest of all creatures. Ignoring him was treason, punishable by death. Had Touko not been there, he would have sunk his teeth into Shojirou's neck by now. He was sure he had been intimidating enough. However, his prey did not show any sign of fear. It was hard to imagine, but maybe, just maybe, this guy did not view him as a threat.
まあ誰でもいいんだけど、筋張った肉は歯ごたえがあっていいし、何より食い出がある。先にそのお兄さんから始めても構わないよね。
The boy wolf called out once again. Still not responding, Shojyrou raised a hand to his nose. Cool, calm, and collected, paying no mind to the boy, yet keeping an eye on him.
匂うな。
Oh shit. Harsh, man. Oh, smells like wet doggo. Everyone present was confused. No one seemed to be able to smell anything but him.
へえ。何が匂うっていうのかな。
We told you, wet doggo is what we smell. Wet doggo. Bayo's voice retained its usual arrogance, but was tinged with impatience. The boy was unable to hide his irritation at being ignored. Finally, Shojyrou turned to face the boy, just a short distance from him.
品のない肉の匂いがする。これだから犬は嫌いなんだ。
Oh shit! That's savage. What a burn. His voice was filled with disgust and contempt. Shojyrou was mainly speaking to himself. But the werewolf boy had never felt so insulted. Even if that was not Shojirou's intent at all. In a moment, the wind picked up, perhaps signaling a change in the werewolf's mood. A fiery gale whipped around, carving patterns in the snow.
Shojyrou!
Oh, just lay there and stop talking, Aoko. Sensing he was about to be killed, Aoko desperately tried to move. But her broken body would not respond. After hearing Shojirou's insult, Alice was unsuccessfully struggling to get to her feet, too. In complete contrast, Shojyrou stood there, firmly and unfazed. The little blonde boy's well of patience had run dry.
そうか。要するに僕が子供だからって舐めてるんだね。お兄さんは。
Angry doggo. Very angry doggo. Its time playing human was over. Enraged, the boy transformed. He grew larger and larger. Golden fur sprouted from his pale flesh. His mouth grew razor-sharp fangs, his hands grew claws. Drawing from the magical energy in the air, he transformed into a preternatural beast, a wolf in the shape of a human.
重化の許しは出していないぞ、ベオ。
Touko yelled at him, but the werewolf did not respond. He only huffed deep breaths of hot air.
そんなバカな話が。
He did. He really did. That was all Shojyrou could say in response to the boy's metamorphosis. Such a transformation was the stuff of nightmares. What was worse, the beast now towered above him. It was enough to make anyone question reality itself.
驚いた。
Seeing his prey's reaction satisfied the werewolf, and his maw twisted into a satisfied grin. He was a strange one, this guy, but meat was meat. However, the beast's arrogance was short-lived. The prey breathed a sigh of exasperation before speaking.
それじゃあ本当に犬そのものじゃないか。
My god, he's talking to a full-blown, like, Kronos werewolf and calling him a dog. This guy is either incredibly stupid or very, very brave. I agree, Aoko. I agree. You could hear a pin drop even in the snow. Aoko, Alice, and Touko were all dumbfounded. Were they really seeing a human not just stare a werewolf down, but insult it to its face? They simply could not believe it. I don't think Bayo could quite believe what he's hearing either. Oh my god. That's some balls right there. It was too late. Any trace of the wolf's pride or dignity faded away. The onlookers finally realized that the wolf was serious.
目を殺すな
I think it's a little late for that, Touko. Bayo is some pissed off. But Toko's command fell on deaf ears. The wolf prepared to lunge, his emerald eyes fixed on Shojyrou, not 30 feet in front of him. A mere 30 feet. Half a second was all he needed. Another half second to bring his claws down and slice his prey from head to toe.
死んだよお前
Truly no fear? Like holy hell. A roar of joyous, unbridled fury echoed far and wide. It was the only warning the werewolf gave as he exploded towards Shojyrou. 1 second. A golden blur swept forth in a furious gust, too fast for eyes to follow. In the face of unworldly speed, there was only one thing to do. Shojyrou stepped forward, a silent shadow opposite the beast's silhouette of the incoming werewolf. Hey Dawson, not a whole lot actually. So Shojyrou just made it to the clearing where Bayo was beating the ever-loving piss out of Touko, sorry, not Touko, out of Aoko and Alice. And after getting there, he decided he was, to start insulting Bayo by saying, stuff stank, holding his nose, saying stuff stinks, rotten, smells like rotten meat, that's why he hates dogs. So Bayo got really, really mad at him and transformed into like a giant Kronos pissed off werewolf war thing. He basically like 9-foot muscle man with the wolf of a head and claws, and yeah, you get the picture. So Shojyrou just blatantly looks at this giant werewolf 30 feet from him and is like, oh, you really are just a dog. And of course, Alice, Touko, and Aoko are all like, wow, holy balls. And now now Bayo is right pissed off and lunging at Shojyrou. Sadly none. To be honest, my work switched my rotation around, and then we had a crew come in, and I haven't actually watched any anime recently. It sucks. I was looking forward to some more anime over the week, but it didn't work out that way. He needed exactly 3 paces. He bet his entire life on around 3 feet of distance. In the blink of an eye, death would be upon him. Yep. Next week, hopefully, I can get some more anime in over the course of the rest of this week and the weekend. I hope. The wolf's forelegs slammed on into the ground with earth-shaking fury. Swing and a miss, my guys, swing and a miss. His back muscles tensed up so much they seemed barely contained in his frame as he swept a rising paw downward. Shojirou's small step neatly avoided the claws. But he had a different motive. He was merely positioning himself for the next move. His intention was never to avoid anything. From the beginning, his mind was focused on but one thing. One point to aim for. One mind. One breath. He picked the perfect opening in the wolf's torso, the precise microsecond between contraction and relaxation. I might watch some more Black Lagoon, to be honest. More likely to watch Black Lagoon, but if I get the opportunity to watch both, I will. That one point alone was the crack in the dream, or in the dam of life. Oh, now that is a screenshot if I ever saw one. It's like the perfect thumbnail right there. I think that'll work for... Yep, definitely. He punched the werewolf in the chest with his feeble human strength. And destroyed his goddamn arm. There was a dull thud and burst of blood. The twisted flesh and gore were all Shojirou's own. Wow. He totally obliterated his arm on Bao's chest. Your fave girl in Black Lagoon with the umbrellas in the next episode? Cool. The werewolf's raised claw convulsed. For an insignificant impact, the beast's body was the first to collapse, then his spirit. Wait, what? There was a moment of utter incomprehension. What the absolute shit just happened? The wolf opened his jaws to try and pull air into his lungs. Gasping, he began to topple forward. The slender figure slipped around to his flank. Did this kid seriously just one-shot a werewolf? What the hell? The next blow pierced him like a spear. Ignoring his mangled left arm, the silhouette whirled around and drove his right elbow into the collapsing werewolf's back. Did you mangle that arm too, dude? There was another muffled impact. The second strike penetrated to the exact same spot as the first strike had, crushing the beast's heart. This time, The blood that flew into the air belonged to the gasping wolf. Oh, he didn't one-shot a werewolf, he two-shotted one. Holy shit. That is crazy. The werewolf fell to the ground, choking on his own blood. He did not get up. He showed no sign of life. It was over. No, he is definitely one of the most badass protags that I have ever had the privilege of reading. Holy damn. Zero chance of actually did this, and this kid just crushes a werewolf's heart in 2 hits. That is nuts. The perfect, furious golden beast lay still. Felled in a mere 3 seconds. Yeah, no shit, they're all dumbfounded again. They're like, what the hell just happened? I'm still trying to figure out what the hell just happened. How did Shojyrou manage to punch a werewolf and then elbow it hard enough to explode its heart? What the fuck? No sane person would have bet on this outcome. Like, is Shojyrou just a walking mystic? His breathing calm, the victor stood over the fallen behemoth's body.
なんで僕が
Not many can say they can kill a werewolf with their bare hands. Not only is he in on a very short list of people who can say they can kill a werewolf with their bare hands, but he's on an even shorter list of people that can do it with their bare hands in 2 hits. Even as the beast lay crumpled in the snow, he could not grasp what had happened. His heart had ruptured, cutting the blood flow to his body and brain, leaving him helpless. That much he knew. If he were a normal creature, he would be dead. As it was, this was a trifling inconvenience. Once his heart was repaired, his body would heal as well. It was not as if he'd been struck by magecraft exceeding his own mystical nature. This was little different than a grazed knee. I don't know, man. Dude just savaged your heart in 2 hits. That's a little more than a skin knee. Which is what was so strange. Your heart does not stop from a grazed knee.
思い出さないと
You underestimated the kid is what you did. The werewolf frantically searched his memory. He managed to remember right up till the moment he raised his claws. But what had come after that? Given the right transformation, he knew he could withstand even a cannon blast. How had a puny human dropped him? Wait. Before that, he had figured out exactly what his opponent did to him. The moment he got in close, yes, he had felt a small impact. The attack was so accurate that it probably only affected his heart. Ridiculous. Even if that was possible, There was no way that alone could stop a werewolf's heart. In the end, no matter how much he thought about it, nothing added up. The answer was out of reach for a werewolf with no knowledge of being backed into a corner, let alone the limits of human skill. Only one thing was certain. He had lost. He tried to piece together the sequence of events. The explosion in his chest, the flash of white. After that, he was falling over. He took another blow to his back. That was the one that disrupted his heart.
ふざけてる。そんなことで僕。
Lose indeed. It was physically impossible. The boy gnashed his teeth and tensed his body in indignation at this unfair conclusion.
そうだ。こんなのは嘘だ。同族でだって僕を任せる奴はいなかった。こんな痛みもこんな事態も全部嘘だ。不合理に狂っている。
Not make any sense, but it doesn't change the fact that it happened.
だってこの僕が他の生き物に負けるはずが。
Yeah, he hit his heart with both, just his heart. With both strikes, the one to the chest that destroyed Shojirou's arm, and then he wheeled around and slammed his elbow into Bao's back, directly behind his heart, causing it to explode. Enough thinking. He was ready. From the ground, he glared at his enemy to his side.
負けるはずが。
The very next moment, an unknown type of pain coursed down his spine. It had eyes, cold eyes, staring, precise, or piercing, colorless. The moon looked more alive. Its arms were broken. Its inhumanly powerful attack had mangled them beyond recognition. I hope I get some more time to watch some more anime too. I feel the anime withdrawals coming on. If it was pain, it would have cried out. Or if it was in pain, it would have cried out. But it was silent. Was it ever alive? Those dead eyes. He'd seen eyes like those before. Those eyes without hatred, without joy. Without any feeling behind them at all. It was mindless instinct. The werewolf's hair stood on end. What was this creeping chill crawling up his spine? Having never experienced fear, the werewolf did not know what had become of him. Despite countless clashes against other mystics, it had been a human that broke him. He knew beasts even larger than himself. You've been too busy playing gotcha? Yeah, did you check out my gotcha pulls for Draco? Oh man, that like broke my ass. knew legendary creatures like himself. He did not know this. He'd never met, much less imagined, a human-sized bug. The chill down the werewolf's spine was so vicious it threatened to split him in two. Yeah, it took me a lot of quartz, eh? And I was getting so frustrated. But I did. I got my one copy of Draco, so I'm happy. If he moved even an inch, it would crush his skull. It would crush his skull underfoot. In spite of the deepest despair gripping him, the boy paradoxically sensed that his opponent would not move at all. The gacha game you've been playing, Dawson, did you pull any of the characters you were really hoping for? This human would exhibit no further violence. It was a creature, a stone that held no animal instinct. It masqueraded as a human. Contradiction grated against his heart, his values. A phantom pain born of unknown emotion, fear. You got games to play too? Yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? I should also either later this week or early next week, I should have that poll coming out for what game we should do for the next live stream. In the next couple days here, I should have enough squirreled away for Silent Hill 2. We'll see if my computer will run that. If not, we'll have to either postpone it, because I did say that would be on the poll. So we'll either have to either I'll have to play a different game in the interim until I can get a new computer, or postpone and I will buy a new one with my tax return. Hopefully I get that fairly soon. But yeah, that poll should be coming out either later this week or early next week. I think, yeah. Should be then. This had been his first taste of doubt of reality. Such contradictions existed in the world, after all. You've been saving your pulls mostly to pull for Woo-wah. Who's Woo-wah? Just out of curiosity. Or is that Wuthering Waves and it's a specific character you're hoping to pull for but doubt you'll get her? They were irrationalities and questions you do not want to hear the answers to. The suppressed pain suddenly flowed through his body like a raging river. This was also a first. Until now, he had always been able to control pain. He had never known what it was. He had never known what it was like to tremble. Okay, so what character are you hoping to get, but you figure you won't pull? An Elemental might have felt sorry for him, if it were here to watch. How sad, born complete, yet lost in the lunacy of the human world.
痛い痛い痛い
You're saving your pulls in all your gotcha games. Okay. Fair enough. I have to start saving again for Ash the Savior. And Berserker Castoria. His heart had fully regenerated. Howling in mental agony, the beast clutched his own trembling body. Those eyes, those human eyes looking straight through him. Oh, you only have one 10 pull in Wua? Oh no! Hopefully you get really, really lucky with that 10 pull. Even with both arms broken, the human could have finished him off with its legs. But it mattered not, because his opponent was giving him a taste of his own medicine. This was not revenge for trying to kill him. This was revenge for the wounds he inflicted on the girls. I hope you get super, super lucky with that 10 pull, Dawson. The absurdity of it all made his throat tighten. His breathing was frantic. This human had no sense of self. It had no concern for its own safety when it stood between him and the girls. That must be why it had no hate or fear, or perhaps even intent to kill him. Indeed, the fact that he was alive had nothing to do with the human's will. The fight was machine-like. So was its judgment. An eye for an eye, and nothing more. If the werewolf had killed one of the girls, this exchange would have ended differently.
殺していたら殺されていた
He shuddered at the thought. He had never entertained such a possibility. He had never had to, because he was supposed to be the one exception to that rule. Agony kicked him hard in the gut. No matter the mystic, nothing was immune from injury, from decay. The boy finally understood an obvious law of the world. Or rather, he had been taught.
殺されてた間違いなく
Those eyes, they would not stop staring down at him. Retribution was a universal law. He was now painfully aware of that fact. And yet... You're playing Azure Lane, Girls Frontline, Nikkei, and Wua. Damn. You must have a lot of time to play gacha games. One who brought form to this idea was this human. Me, I only have time for one gacha game, and that's Fate. That would be my FGO. It's the only gacha game I have time for right now. The pain of defeat, the pain in his heart, the pain of comprehending the incomprehensible. And a new side gotcha game, Madoka Magica. Oh right, I was gonna look into that one. Haven't managed to have time to do that either. Damn. Pain, pain, pain. The impossibility of it all had shattered his perfect world. It ate at him, consumed every fiber of his being. The doubt made his head spin. It was too much. Humans were impossible to understand.
殺されてた。殺されてた。殺されてた。
He had not been made to face death. He had not been made to face the death of another but his own. Unable to cope, he reverted to his human form. Oh, you only play for about 2 hours a day just doing your dailies? Well, I mean, if that's all you have time for, that's all you have time for, right? Quietly, he shivered like a frightened child in a mother's lap. Still laying in the snow, Aoko choked on her words, unable to entirely comprehend what had unfolded.
宗十郎、あんた。
Yeah, he just shit-kicked a werewolf. She could not hide the trembling in her voice.
何？
And he's just all nonchalant, like shit didn't just go down like that. Speaking in his usual way, Shojyrou nonchalantly turned toward her.
何って。今自分が何をしたか分かってんの？
4 hours if you got time to do some story stuff? That's fair. I tend to grind through story as much as possible while I'm doing other stuff. Or between doing other stuff, grind away at the bit of the story for, a couple hours. And then, if it's a day where I have to record, then do my recording. And later on after recording, grind away for like another hour or something. She shouted angrily as though he had done something wrong. Shojyrou looked surprised, wondering what on earth he had done to upset her. Oh, we're all super busy, Dawson. I have absolutely no doubt that you are a very busy man. He lowered his gaze back to the wolf boy. Knitting his brow in dismay, Shojyrou finally realized what Aoko was referring to.
心外だな。青崎は分かってると思ってた。
He looked at her in disappointment.
分かってるって何？
Yeah, no shit, do what? What is it we're supposed to already know, Shojyrou? Feeling slightly affronted by Aoko's responded curtly. Feeling slightly affronted, Aoko responded curtly. Shojyrou sighed. Okay.
山じゃ熊はそう珍しいものじゃない。
I appreciate that you love the streams. I really do.
以前確かに言ったじゃないか。
I rather enjoy doing the streams. Oh shit. You mean this guy's just running around beating the hell out of bears all day? before he came down from the mountains. Told you bears are common. Yeah, but you never said you beat the snot out of them. I mean, I remember he did say bears were common in the mountains, but I don't ever remember Shojyrou saying, bears are common, and I beat the hell out of them. Aoko's jaw dropped. It took her a moment to process what he had just said. She recalled some meaningless conversation or the other from who knows when.
君、もしかして俺をバカにしているのか？まったく。なんで熊を倒すためなんかに修行しなくちゃいけないんだ。
Oh, he did say he was beating the shit out of bears. My bad. Yes, now that she thought about it, they had spoken about that. He'd mentioned being familiar with large beasts. I think Aoko's been wanting to smash him for a long time now. Since probably about a week after she met him. Pretty sure she's been wanting to smash him for at least a couple of months now. Especially now that she's just watched him beat the living crap out of a werewolf. And she couldn't deny that she'd heard him utter some anachronistic nonsense about training against them. Oh, which meant, yeah, he was beating the crap out of bears before he came down from the mountains. He was used to dealing with animals larger than himself. If he'd lived the sort of life that involved run-ins with wild bears, then a man-wolf might only have been surprising, but not particularly frightening. Yeah, Alice would be like, no punching my ploys, please. You'll break them. Oh, man. Aoko hung her head. After all this time, who was it that really made no sense?
参ったわ。あなたの勝ちよ、宗十郎。
It was hard to tell whether she spoke in admiration or exasperation. Either way, she was slouched in the snow. Aoko spoke quietly enough so only she could hear her words. Blah, blah. Touko, on the other hand, understood exactly what had transpired. Bayo lay fallen, now just a sobbing boy. And another boy stood over him with two shattered arms. Near fatally wounded, Aoko and Alice still could not stand, but had recovered enough strength to breathe. As for Touko, she only had a few tricks up her sleeve, maybe 3 or 4 more runes at best. The magic crests on her back were usable. She could use the remaining magical energy from the field imprisoning her grandfather, but that would be stupid. If she released her grandfather, she would lose ownership of the sacred ground. Failing to defeat Aoko and Alice now would mean starting over from square one, and she could not afford that. This sibling rivalry had to end. Touko had gambled everything on her surprise attack. Using the fact that she was still in Awazaki to infiltrate Mizaki's defenses. For 3 years she had labored selling her work to the association. and she had used 20 years' worth of hair to mobilize an army of familiars. It was now or never.
だが、私は失敗した。
She had overestimated the werewolf's power. It should have been enough. Against mages alone, Beowulf by himself would have been enough to ensure complete victory. But things do not always go according to plan. No, plans usually only survive their first encounter with the enemy, and then your plan goes to shit. Beo's incredible strength was conditional. She knew he was not infallible, so why hadn't she prepared a contingency plan? Her heart was cold as ice. Touko stared at Shojyrou, who stood tall. His arms were a hideous mess. The arm he used to strike Beo head-on barely even resembled an arm. His bones were bent out of shape, his muscles were torn to shreds. To say his arm was simply broken would be a gross understatement. Streams of crimson ran down his other arm into the white snow. The elbow he drove into Beo's back was likely shattered, and his muscles and tendons torn up to his shoulder. Judging from the state of his arms, it was doubtful he would be able to use them again. Worse than his arms were his left leg, and no doubt his internal organs too. He had used the leg to take the full brunt of Beo's charge. At a glance, it looked fine, but it was now just a useless hunk of meat attached to his torso. His insides were worse. Sporting the weight of Beo had ruptured his spine, causing widespread internal bleeding. Basically, he was a dead man standing. A bird with clipped wings. Living like that would not be living at all. He could barely stand, let alone fight again. In contrast, the collapsed werewolf was unscathed. Only once had he coughed up blood. The majority of the pool of red on the snow was Shojirou's. A crimson tapestry telling the story of a boy who stood strong and defeated a werewolf. Oh man, I am so looking forward to the Witch on the Whole Night movie. You're absolutely right. I am looking forward to this seeing this part animated. Holy crap, that'll be so good.
当然だ。衝撃には反動が伴う。拳を振るうのなら相応の負担がある。まして相手は人狼。走ってくる鉄の壁を真っ向から殴るようなものだ。
Yeah, but he derailed that moving freight train, so...
それを...
Perhaps he had known what would happen. Animals instinctively limit their strength in order to protect their bodies. Compensating for physical weakness with intellect and technique was humanity's forte. And that clash had shown humans at their very best. And yet, it had also been beyond human. He had attacked without concern for his own safety. Without self-preservation in mind, he could go beyond human capability. Enough to strike through the steel-like fur of a legendary werewolf, But who would have thought that a beast able to withstand a shot from a tank would be felled by a mere human?
いや、違う。ためらうことなく殴りつけたから壊れたのではない。初めからあれは壊すことを前提にしていたな。
He sacrificed his entire body to destroy Bao's heart. Touko felt a chill come over her. Touko felt a chill come over her as she went over it in her head. As she went over in her head what had transpired. My God, that was a hard sentence for me today. Wow. It should have been a nightmarish scene, but she was captivated by the supreme display of physical rationality. From the outside looking in, she had witnessed an accident, but not a rational consequence. In that instant, the boy had put his entire being into piercing Bao's chest. As soon as he laid eyes on Aoko and Alice, he had committed himself fully to the task. He sized Bao up, synchronizing his breathing, found his weak point, calculated the exact position, timing, and distance he would need to hold his ground. He knew what he had to do to win, and did it with everything he had. It had nothing to do with instinct. A wild creature would not have tried to beat something it could not. Only a human would risk his life when faced with the impossible. That contradiction fed his attack. He twisted his body from heel to his neck to focus his energy. If Bao had simply tried to run Shojyrou down, the werewolf probably would have won. But the beast wanted to rip him to shreds. Or rather, he was baited into doing so. After Bao charged, when he planted his feet, he raised his claw, then swung it downward, putting himself off balance. His pulse was erratic, his movement wild. In that moment, he was vulnerable. That was when Shojyrou made his move. The beast had overwhelming power, but it was sloppy. Whereas the human concentrated all of his meager power into a single point. That was how the human shifted the balance in his favor. The follow-up elbow attack would rupture Bao's heart. It was a graceless second strike. A sloppy blow, no different from Bao's. The elbow was only able to penetrate Bao's golden fur because of the first attack to his chest.
あの時点でベオは丸裸にされていた。無敵の人狼がその機能の一切を休止させられた。つまり。
Okay, I see what's going on here. Oh man, so Shojyrou here's the perfect counter to the Monkey King then. If he can punch somebody so hard he could, for a split second, take away their invincibility, I'm sure he could punch away Sun Wukong's immortality for a half a second. The strike was not meant to break, but to disable. All living creatures had a weakness. No matter how strong the creature, it had weak points and weak moments. Not just physically, but mentally too. A time when they aren't in their best shape, unable to focus or find motivation. Sickness or lack of sleep or food, for example, can cause the body's rhythm to go out of sync. For a variety of reasons, intelligent beings risk losing their ability to function properly. Legendary beasts were no exception.
弱点、欠点をつく魔術なら知っているが、全てを投げ打って弱点を生むとはな。
Now you have heard of a technique that risks everything to create weakness. There you go, Touko. Now you have. The boy's strike to the heart was not an attempt to kill Bayo. It was designed to create a weakness in something that had none. The elbow attack took advantage of that break in Bayo's invulnerability.
加えて、笑えることに不意打ちですらない。ベオの神経の伝達速度なら、毒が当たった瞬間に感知し対応できる。
Yeah, but Bayo was super angry and not thinking straight, so...
だが、そもそもそれを毒と認識できなければ、変形のしようもない。
So what happens when you're too angry to think straight?
毒ではないものが毒になるなんて落とし穴を、誰が教えてやれるものか。
She was frustrated, to say the least. The boy was totally committed, utterly selfless. He bet his life on a single moment without expecting a single thing in return. The boy who had acquired the experience and skill to do such a thing. It was not a miracle of luck, nor a miracle of passion. It was not talent, tenacity, or hatred. Without constant, intense training, no one could destroy their own body on a whim like that.
子供には相手が悪かったようね。
Seeing Bayo cowering in the snow, Touko was disappointed in her own lack of foresight. She had used him for his talent alone, ignoring his inexperience. If Bayo was not a child, his life experience might have given him the strength to bounce back and devour Shojyrou after regenerating.
ベオを責めるべきか、それとも君を評価すべきなのか。
Touko quietly lifted her left hand. Nobody noticed. Standing far away, the boy standing there looked like a hunter from a picture book. He had a slender build, but that was likely because he intentionally shed any excesses. Given what she just witnessed, his cluelessness had been part of the act of a hunter. As she thought to herself, she suddenly remembered. The first thing that crossed her mind was the first time they spoke.
そうだったな。だが、それは忘れていたかったよ、宗十郎君。
No sooner had she felt a slither of sentiment, she returned to her unshakable resolve. She was raised as the heir to the Awazaki household, taught never to question the morality of her actions. That's why, even now, she knew exactly what she had to do.
でも、よかった。
That went well, did it? Shojyrou muttered, unmoving, perhaps because of the pain in his broken arms. He did not look at Aoko. Instead, his gaze was focused on Alice, who was laying prone some way away. Aoko thought he looked lonely.
よかったって何がよ。
She asked, spurning him on. They were mere steps from each other, close enough to touch hands. Their quiet voices carried in the stillness.
私たちが無事だったから。なんて言ったら怒るわよ。
Don't you dare say you're happy we're alive or I'll be pissed. I think you're gonna be pissed, Aoko. She was not joking. Shojyrou turned away from her slightly, shaking his head.
口にするのは3度目だけど、青崎の心配はしていないんだ。
Say it a third time. I'm not worried about
いや、
safety.
さっきはちょっと意識が飛んだようなんだけど。
He said as an embarrassed smile crossed his face. The first time he outright fainted, but the second time his passion pushed the dizziness and nausea aside. He just calmly did what he could as best he could. Nevertheless, no matter how calm he tried to be, deep within festered a very real rage.
じゃあ何が良かったのよ、宗十郎。
Aoko's voice had a slight tinge of annoyance. Shojyrou responded.
だって、ようやく約束が守れた。そっちだけが約束を守ってるのに、こっちは果たせなかっただろう。それがずっと気になっていたんだ。その機会があって、本当によかった。
His relief expressed itself as a small but heartfelt smile. Aoko listened, astonished. For a moment, she could not recall what promise Shojyrou was talking about. When she remembered what he was talking about, what she had told him all that time ago in the amusement park, her mind went blank.
あいつをやっつけるのに協力したら、俺のことは見逃してくれる？
He proposed the deal, but in the end, he hadn't been of any use. It must have been eating away at him this entire time. Aoko had considered the agreement binding, but only for herself.
あんなどうでもいいことを。
She muttered in disbelief. Shojyrou gave a nod and affirmed with a tiny voice.
約束は自分のために果たすものだって教えてくれたのは青崎だ。だから君が守っている限り俺も守らないといけない。はあ、ずっと俺はそうしたかったんだ。
As if listening to a confessional, Aoko stayed silent. She could not find the words to say anyway. However, Shojyrou proved ever the enigma. Taking such a trivial promise so seriously and speaking so sincerely about something so basic. She could not wrap her head around how he had beaten a werewolf. But his personality, that was the true mystery. It was no use trying to figure that out now. To Aoko Awazaki, he was a riddle wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a conundrum.
それじゃあ、借りは返したから帳尻はゼロだ。これで貸し借りはなしだぞ、青崎。
Shojyrou said lightly, perhaps attempting to break the silence. Normally, his word would have passed her by, but she knew his kindness for what it was.
貸しがついたのはこっちの方よ。これじゃあどうやって返していいかわからないじゃない。
Shojyrou nodded in happy agreement.
それより青崎の足なんか塞がってるな。もしかしてもう立てるのか？
She shot him a stubborn look as if to say, well, duh, obviously. Ever amazed by her grit, he offered his right hand. Despite being broken at the elbow to Aoko, it looked as sturdy as ever. By all appearances, it was beyond recovery, and that would be for the rest of his life. Even so, she seemed able to ignore the pain for Aoko's sake.
ほんと、あんたってバカ。
He really is hopeless. She uttered under her breath, looking up at him. As much as she hated to admit, she could not refuse his hand. Resigning herself, she reached out to Shojyrou. But her hand never reached his. A small bell chimed. A line of wind whipped through the air. It cut through his waist like a guillotine. Pieces began to fall. What were those things dropping before her eyes? Aoko could not remember who they belonged to.
Shojyrou?
That used to be his name, right? The name of whoever lay in the red snow in front of her. Oh man. Yeah, he just got like bisected. And unlike Shiro, this man isn't pulling himself back together. His face now rested on the ground beneath her chin. The smell of viscera assaulted her nostrils. A river of blood flowed from what used to be a stomach. It happened so fast. Too fast for her mind to process, in fact. Her only solace was he probably did not suffer. How could she think that so calmly, especially after what she had witnessed? Her blood boiled at her own stupidity. Which begged the question, how should she treat the one who did this? She used all her anger on herself. She had none left to give anyone else. But this hatred was hers and hers alone. Her problem was this: could she muster the emotions from this drought of anger? She was not sure, but the thought of hunting them down made her smile unconsciously in anticipation. Aoko turned to the old school building to where Touko was standing with her arm out in front of her. She had used the same rune magic she used against Aoko and Alice, except Shojyrou had no magic crests. Touko's amber eyes were narrowed, staring intensely at the fallen corpse. As to what she might have been feeling, Aoko could not care less. Even if Touko felt regret, Aoko would never forgive her for as long as she drew breath. I am loving this story. This is freaking
君
amazing.
からこうしておくべきだったな。
Although I kind of figured our protag would make it to the end of the novel, to be honest. And I'm kind of a little irked with Touko here for cutting him down without even having the courage to look him in the face. When she did it. Touko was not speaking to Aoko, but to the dead body. There was no response. No clouds of breath. Coming to terms that he was truly dead, Aoko pushed herself up to her feet.
案外無様ね。
Facing her sister in the distance, Aoko spoke hoarsely.
でも正しい選択だわ。これで勝負はやり直しだもの。
Yes. It absolutely was a good recommendation that I do Witch on a Holy Night. I am absolutely loving this story. She turned away from Shojyrou and stared at Aoko. They stood far apart. Further apart than their positions made them seem. Though there was nothing left to say, the two of them exchanged words in respect to the fact that they were once sisters.
ああ、魔術刻印という私の切り札はこの通りで、人狼というカードもお前の切り札の前に敗れ去った。だが、そちらも刻印を使い切り、彼も今息絶えた。互いに決定打はなくなったわけだ。
そうね。私も甘かった。人狼が再起不能になった時点で、あなたが敗北を認めたなんて勝手に思い上がるんだから。本来ならそうなるんだけど、あなたがそんなに諦めがいいのなら、この町に戻ってきはしないものね。本当に甘かった。
It was clear to Touko that Aoko was trying to suppress her emotions. Aoko was right, though. Her sister had counted on Beowulf to succeed. As mages, no matter what cards Aoko or Alice had in their hands, they were helpless against the werewolf. But then Shojyrou had shown up, and Touko couldn't win as long as he was around. Unfortunately, though, he had stopped the werewolf and had been defenseless against a mage. So she had to kill him. With Shojyrou out of the way, no one could hold Beo back. It would take time for him to recover, but as long as his wounds were only mental, that could be overcome. Alice and Aoko could try to attack again before he recovered, but Alice was being kept in check by the poison, so Touko still had the advantage. Stalemate still. The battle would drag on. Unless Aoko were to use it. Oh, is Aoko finally mad enough to use true magic? See, I can't get the Tsukihime remake, Dawson. I don't have a Nintendo Switch or a PS5. So I can't get the Tsukihime remake, unfortunately, as much as I want it. And I will be playing Silent Hill. I just don't know if I'll be able to do it with this computer or if I have to wait till I get a new one. The powdery snow began to whirl around her. The air around her wailed. It was magecraft that transcended all that was mystical. The gate to miracles beyond human comprehension, ready to show itself.
やる気のようね、青子。
Touko released the crest maintaining the field. With that, her grandfather would be free, and the barriers around Mizaki would be restored. Which was not what Touko wanted, but it was that or forfeit her life. The crests at her disposal were now twice as powerful as her sister's. Aoko gazed at this new threat with her eyes half closed. None of this was her concern. Far removed from the situation, she was searching for something, hidden deep inside her, desperate to reach it. There it was, an odd feeling, like picking up algae. It was not the fire of emotion. It was not solid nor regret. It must have been what people meant by rising to the occasion. Abandoning thought itself, Aoko held on to that feeling as she stared at her enemy.
いいわよ、トウコ。
Who spoke softly, yet more loudly than a scream.
お望み通り、本当の魔法を見せてあげる。
Focusing her power into the dim crests on her right arm, she weaved the words together. A single incantation. A final, heartfelt farewell. A brilliant blue-colored magic, taking time back to when certain someone had been blessed. To put it simply, magecraft is human wisdom. It is the world as we know it. Magic is the singularity that exists beyond either of those. At the beginning, the first changed all. Next, the second recognized many. In answer, the third showed the future. Tethered, the fourth concealed itself. And the final, fifth, had long since lost its significance. Someone once said, had it only ended at the third. Magecraft is the study of history, feats of our making and life orbiting the planet. But true magic is the providence of a god beyond the heavens. Why do those who stand on the earth extol the virtues of miracles beyond humankind and the planet? This was an undeniable sin. Magic was the enemy of humanity. That is why those who obtain a new magic are killed by the red shadow.
聞け、万物の霊長。
Aoko's voice resonated through high and high above the winter skies. The air began to fracture, turning the scenery into broken glass. Touko wondered whether she would fight or flee. She decided to try and keep her feelings in check and see this through. But the object of her obsession for so many years was right in front of her. Rationality was slipping away from her grasp. Both of their fates were now uncertain. Touko had an overwhelming advantage when it came to her crests and the terrain. When it comes to true magic, however, if the Aozaki magic was anything like Alice Kuanji's fairy tale monsters, then mage's strength was not a part of the equation. At this point, it was Touko against magic itself, and there was no winning against the truth. The transcendence and idiosyncrasy of true magic rendered things like magecraft irrelevant.
だが
Touko stared at her sister, wondering if she could actually use it. Her proclamation lacked conviction. She had raised her voice, but it was out of discipline. It had been the arrogant conviction to sacrifice someone else for their own gain. Having not been chosen to inherit it, Touko could not imagine what the magic in her sister was. Only that it was a force violent enough to change the world. No human mind could withstand the audacity required to make an enemy of the world itself. Especially not someone as indecisive as her sister. The power of magic would surely cripple her. Oh wow, her magic circle changed drastically. Feeling Touko's eye on her, Aoko doubted herself. She could not help but hesitate. Terror gripped her, heart tightened.
でもだから
She could not run away forever. Her hesitation and terror meant she would never forgive herself for stopping now. Closing her eyes, she pushed herself into the final stage. Time stopped, like a light being switched off. She submerged herself in her own darkness. Everything frozen, only she moved. Everything around her disappeared as she passed a limitless stream of stars. And as soon as she did, she wanted to disappear into the empty, thoughtless place she arrived in without any answers. Not again. The red shadow will surely come this time. Suddenly, I saw a new memory. Possibly because I used another to make the trade for redacted. I hardly felt familiar yet new sound. I heard a familiar yet new sound. Wow. I wish for nothing. I seek nothing. Only to fuse with the consciousness, that hurtles backwards in time to zero. This sound, this bitter, sad, meaningless pulls at my... the bitter, sad meaninglessness pulls me by my hair. But I have to resist. The red ghost is always going to be my biggest hurdle. I must forget the value of life. I must forget the dignity of death. The sound persists. It's got nothing to do with this journey. It's just an external distraction. And yet, I think I finally understand. I know what noise has been making me so... I know what noise has been making me so uneasy. What the... The unsettling whispers were directed at me. Or perhaps the red shadow was perplexed by the quiet soul listening to it. It glares at me, its eyes filled with hatred. How could I be so unprepared? Don't tell me. You can't be serious. You're going to turn me into your prey for that? That is your everything. You have nothing else. The effect of rewinding, the decision to never say never. His prime, his meaningless life. She negated it. She used her superior power to negate the sound that was an absolute rule to him. Just brushed it aside like it was a cobweb. The sound disappeared, and a new one replaced it. I wish for nothing. I want nothing. A pure, obedient heart. That's why you get nothing. A life of falsehood led by affirmation. This is ridiculous. My legs move towards the future, but they stop. Change of plans. I'm taking a different path. Nothing's changed. It's just something has made me real mad. How can I put it? You call this the past? You idiot! If you don't complain about something to someone, you'll explode. Even if it's just to the voice, or to he who hears it, or to the part of me who just stays quiet and watches, or to the one who did that to him. With no answer, I open my eyes.
告げる
Aoko released everything she had dragged up. As for what was there, or what she saw, she could not remember. All she had held on to was the fury that burned in her heart. Pushed on by something she did not know, what she opened the door to. Magic. Change was extraordinary. Beneath her, the snow vanished, replaced by a small patch of lush green grass. This ground had never existed under the frozen blanket. It had been rewritten into a new landscape. The very elements rejected her as if the world itself was back. The electrical discharge lashed at her body. This miracle threatened to destroy the world. The world had to protect itself. It moved to expunge her. Pain scorched her every cell, trying to tear her away from her consciousness. But she did not falter. All this pain, this loneliness, was to take her to the root. Ever since inheriting true magic, she had suffered to this tortured time and time again. He contended against the voiceless protests of the cosmos. The burden engulfed her retinas and nerves in flames. And then light. She finally understood. She remembers why she came back and what she wanted to scream.
青を示す我が名において告げる。
A censoring voice told her to stop. The edge of oblivion, her hand touched the true form of magic. The snarling red shadow was there, telling her it was no use. So much doubt, so much fear. But such things meant nothing to her, to me. I don't care about magicians' obligations or the destruction of mankind. I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. I only have one reason for doing anything right now. God, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I just want to save him.
No, say.
Blue whirlwind whisked up around her. Casting aside her doubt and sorrow, the magician played her trick upon the world. Time flowed backward. Childhood memories were overwritten. White flowers appeared as far as the eye could see. Brighter than the snow, they rippled like a wave across the world, devouring it.
Five timeless words.
Order has fallen to ruin. What was declared had come to be. In this time and place alone, the fifth magic had made itself known. In the blink of an eye, the snowy clearing had transformed. A sea of fully bloomed white flowers blanketed the ground. Only the dilapidated school building and the bare winter trees signified this was the original world. The once cold wind now blew with a pleasant warmth across the landscape. Even the night sky was once again teeming with stars. If one reached out, one could almost touch them. It was a mix of comfort and solitude, quiet enough to carry the sound of insects flying through the air. A scene far removed from the impurity and grief of humans. A world with nothing, yet one that needed nothing. It was his most precious memory. The winter tundra had changed into a spring meadow. Aoko's so-called true magic confused Touko. Sure, it was pleasant to the eye, but what she wanted to see was something less idyllic. Aoko's spell was clearly no small feat, but the surrounding mana had not changed. Better to be confused, though, than deal with something like Alice Kawanji's flat snark. The only changes seemed to be the flower field and Aoko's appearance. She seemed to have received some enhancement to her physical form, but it would never be enough to match Touko.
確かに魔法といえば魔法だが
Touko said with a hint of annoyance.
あいにくとお互い夢見る年頃ではないんだまさかそれで終わりではないだろ
Aoko began walking through the sea of flowers. But she was not heading toward Touko.
いえ、これでおしまいよ。私も、あなたも。
Aoko's words sent a wave of unease through Touko. Her sister's voice seemed different somehow. It was mostly the same in pitch, so it had to be the tone. Not that that was the same too. No, that was the same too. Something was off. Could it be? It was then Touko noticed something else had changed. Not just Aoko in the clearing. The severed body laying at Aoko's feet. It was now whole. Corpse reanimation? Wound healing? It did not look like Aoko had used a significant formula, and besides regenerating a body, did not bring it to life. Since the dawn of time, even true magic has never been able to bring the dead back. But the body of the boy behind Aoko was moving. It was breathing, like it was taking a nap.
死者の蘇生が青崎の魔法いや違うあれは蘇生というより
No, it is definitely not resurrection. Before she could think of an answer, Touko realized what had seemed out of place to her before. Aoko's mannerisms appeared beyond her years. Her appearance had changed ever so slightly, but beyond there had been a change from within. By the time Touko arrived at the seemingly impossible conclusion, Aoko had closed the distance between them.
タービンセット
Aoko raised her left hand to eye level. Touko could hear the magical energy gathering inside inside Aoko. Wow. It was a sound Touko had never heard before. Aoko only possessed a single function, low-grade circuits. No better than any third-rate mage. So she generated magical energy at much lower rate than Touko. However, this speed was absurdly quick, moving even faster than the blood pumping through her body. Magecraft could vibrate, but how in the hell were the activated magic circuits audible? Even the association had never heard of such a thing.
我が目前に勝利ありき
Spurred to action by the sudden dread she felt, Touko hurriedly carved runes into the air. Touko summoned the divine protection of victory to surround herself with a barrier which was further encased by her crests. Paying it no mind, Aoko held her arm steady, moving it up to strike her target directly.
まだ展開
Aoko commanded herself succinctly. Oh shit! This was beyond magecraft. In just a few words, she had fired 20 magic bullets. Like a meteor shower, the bullets smashed through the rocket-proof rune barrier, as well as Touko's spell-woven coat. He back, huh? Yeah, figured as much. We can't very well let our pro tag die before the end of the book, can we? He did shoot without loading. The protective runes lining her coat screamed. They would not be able to take another barrage like that. And she'd already taken internal injuries. She loathed to admit it, but Aoko vastly outclassed Touko in terms of raw power. Even harder to admit was that her sister probably had not even brought out the big guns yet. No, she's just firing little baby bullets at you now. Jumping backward, Touko drew more runic symbols in the air. In response, her crest burned brightly. But... with a single word, Aoko nullified the runes, dissolving them before they could be given meaning. The power of Aoko's words had surpassed the magical energy of Touko's rune magic. With the runes nullified, Aoko continued advancing through the white flowers. From her calmness to the robust spinning of her magic circuits, and her breathing, she was different. A woman with sublime self-control, a trait only found in mages with a lifetime of combat experience.
あれは時間か。
Yeah, no shit. Touko should not have cut down Shojyrou. If Touko had not done this, Aoko may never have mastered her true magic. And yes, Aoko has been to the ends of time and back. Given the evidence, that was the only explanation for the Awazaki magic. Aoko's magic circuits had not been amplified. That would have been impossible anyway. Like Touko, she'd have to externalize them, which would just increase the scope of their magical energy and techniques. By nature, the quality of a mage's magic circuits do not change. But Aoko was now clearly a superior mage to Touko. So there was only one logical conclusion. In an instant, she had grown from an amateur to a veteran. She fast-forwarded her own time. Yeah, that is the fifth magic. Magic Blue, otherwise known as Temporal Exchange. Time means absolutely nothing to Aoko. Scarred Red Mage turned her back on her sister and ran. She knew she could not win, so she fled toward the old school building. Aoko did not fire. Not out of pity, but because she decided that an attack at this range was risky. She went to chase after her sister, but stopped suddenly. A few words caught in her throat. She took a small breath.
Alice, そいつ、お願い。
She said, slightly embarrassed by the maturity in her voice. White petals flitted through the air. Without looking back, she made after Touko, her long hair flowing behind her.
Ore?
Yeah, no shit. Oro? His eyelids snapped open. At least Shojyrou awoke from his long slumber. Laying on his back, he gazed up at the stars. The trees around him created a porthole into space. Despite seeing all this for the first time, he felt an uncomfortable sense of déjà vu. So many questions. What had happened before he fell asleep? You didn't fall asleep, dude, you died. Why had he been sleeping? Because you were killed. Everything was just so hazy. Because you just returned from the land of the dead, dummy. It was like he had walked out the door one minute and woken up in bed the next. With so many thoughts clouding his mind, he could barely recall his own name. All he could remember was a girl he'd never seen before. And something thin around his neck.
しずきくん。
The voice, quiet but clear, belonged to the girl named Alice Kuwanji, who was at his side.
そういえば、そうだった。
Oh yeah, I died! He sat up, mumbling incoherently. The black-clad girl knelt next to him.
花だ。
He said, paying no mind to Alice. Under the blue moonlight, spring flowers swayed, surrounded by dead trees and snow. Against the curtain of night, white petals danced in the breeze like butterflies. Staring long and hard at this spectacle, Shojyrou suddenly raised his fingers to his neck. He moved carefully, like he was touching a wound. Then, gradually, he began squeezing harder and harder. Of course, Alice is smexy as ever. The voice of the girl beside him brought him back to reality.
せっかく戻れたのにまた
He sounded both sad and reproachable, but Shojyrou did not understand why. Seeing the uncharacteristic corner in her eye, snapped him to his senses. Her unnatural characteristic concern. Wow, I'm having a rough time tonight.
行くって、どこに？
His fingers fell away from his neck. Without answering, she blankly looked to the sky. Though there was only the infinite darkness of space.
まあいいや。それより、俺は何をしてたんだろう。なんか変だ。ごちゃごちゃしてる。
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alice does really like him now. Problem is Aoko does too. It feels like it's full of cobwebs. Well, I guess being dead might do that to you. Shojyrou tilted his head in confusion. Alice observed him motionless. This bewildered boy was a far cry from the one that made short work of a werewolf. Then again, this was Shojyrou. As she stared at him, she realized she did not have an answer he could understand. So she tried asking a question. The same question she'd asked him repeatedly as he'd slept, but eventually gave up on expecting a response.
今までしずきくんは何をしていたの？
The quiet question was spoken like an ethereal spell of magecraft, enthralling spell of magecraft. Said spell seemed to work, and Shojyrou sank into a sea of memories. Atop the bright white hill, they quietly sat for a while like siblings.
誰かの声が聞こえた気がする。何かを聞いているようだった。けど、自分は最後まで一言も返せなかった。
Though consumed by the darkness of death, he could still vaguely recall the girl's question. He was not aware that he had died, but it seemed a fragment of the time remained from when he had been with her. Shojirou's expression darkened, filled with regret. Looking at his profile, Alice pressed him further.
それで欲しいものは見つかった？
Remembering that someone had asked him questions, he gave a slight nod.
ああ、そうだった。けれどね、アリス。そんなものは見つからないって思っていたんだ。うん。 ずっとそう思っていた。
The regret in his voice was accompanied by a hint of strength. Lowering his gaze, Shojyrou saw a white flower garden that looked like something from the afterlife. It shone brightly, captivating him.
思い出した。青子の前でざっくり言ったんだっけ。
He actually remembers getting cut in half? Holy shit.
なのに生きているのはどういうことなんだろう。
Because shenanigans. Because shenanigans. Shojyrou said, prodding his own body curiously. His arms were their old selves again. But what of Aoko? He turned towards Alice for an answer, who sat among the flowers looking sullen.
巻き戻されたのよ、しずきくんは。この風景も本来はあなたの記憶だけど、わからない。
Alice seemed to be speaking in riddles.
俺の記憶って、その割には知らないところなんだけど。
今しずきくんの時間は青子に使われているから、それが戻されるまで思い出すことはないわ。
He answered ominously as she cast her gaze over the flower garden.
でも、これが消えてしまうのは残念ね。元に戻れば、思い返せるのは私だけなのに。
Looking at all the white blossoms, she smiled momentarily.
おう。
Her words only confused him further.
アリス、君答える気がないんだろ
He said dejectedly, prompting Alice to face him. What emotions lay inside those deep eyes?
意味のない話だけど、聞きたい？
聞きたい。アリスが教えてくれるならなおさらだ。
Shojyrou nodded enthusiastically while Alice took a deep breath and closed her eyes. When she spoke in a caring tone, as caring tone as she was capable of.
結論だけ言うと、あなたは一度死んで生き返ったの。しずきくんが瞳子さんに殺されてから、青子が目を覚ますまでの5分間分の時間を巻き戻して。その時、あなたは10年近い年月を青子に使われた。
So in the instant she rewound the 5 minutes pertaining to his death, she also simultaneously swiped 10 years of his time?
二人とも肉体年齢は変わってないから、中の時間だけ持っていったんでしょうね。だから今、この景色を懐かしく思えるのは青子だけ。そして
And once the time exchange was over, neither Aoko nor Shojyrou would remember what happened. Oh my god, it's going so slowly. What happened during these moments? When Aoko used someone else to channel her true magic, it did not affect her alone. You'd love to see Alice in a swimsuit? I'm sure there's art of it out there somewhere on the interwebs. If she'd rewound time for only herself, the temporal inconsistencies would form part of her own experience. However, this was proper time travel. The inconsistencies would be corrected. When the magic ended. Both Aoko's memories of this place and Shojirou's unfamiliarity with it would be corrected. This miracle would become unrealized. Only the observers would remember this brilliant white sea of flowers. Alice and Touko.
時間を持っていく?
Shojyrou asked, his head tilting even further at Alice's general explanation. She recalled how Aoko said that if you gave Shojyrou a roundabout answer, he would stop asking questions, even if he did not comprehend it.
しずきくんを生き返らせる方法はなかったから、命の復元より死そのものの回避を青子は試みたのよ。
Yeah, since can't resurrect him, she just rewound time, so he's just not dead now.
それとも今回もひよったのか。
Damn.
大きな操作は避けて小さな操作。自分とあなただけの交換にとどめたようね。あなたは今5分間だけ時間を飛んだことになるわ。仮に遠い未来、この時間を検索できる人がいたとしても、あなただけは誰にも見つけられない。だって時間軸の上にいなかったん
Damn,
です
so
よ。
even if somebody in the far distant future was to look through time, Shojyrou just would not exist for that 5 minutes? Shit.
そして同時に青子は自分の時間を上乗せするためにあなたから時間を借り受けた。多分幼年期の時間でしょうね。個人の時間操作は忘却している部分の方が楽だと聞くし。
Should I slow down? Alice asked with her eyes. All Shojyrou could do was nod.
つまり二つの奇跡を
She did in fact use two miracles.
あなたの体の巻き戻しと自分の体の早送りね。しずきくんの時間に介入する際、ついでに10年分の時間を借り受けて未来の自分を持ってきた。だから今瞳子さんを殺そうとしているのは27歳分の時間を持った青崎青子ということになるわ。
What on earth was Alice talking about? Shojirou's expression gave away his thoughts, though the part about Touko made him furrow his brow.
瞳子さんを殺すって青子。
もう終わってるでしょうけど。
And off he goes. As soon as Alice answered, Shojyrou stepped off. Kicking up white petals behind him as he ran, the brave boy who defeated a werewolf was back. Alice watched him go. Yeah, Parasite gets even more interesting the more you go, huh? Sweet. Looking forward to it. On a snowy night, the same boy ran down Shinrozuka Hill for her too. Shojyrou entered the old school building. Lights flashed and the sounds of destruction exploded around him, threatening to turn the area into a burial ground. Still, he remained focused.
ほら。
I think I have a way to like do it on stream. When we're done the stream, give me a second to set things up, and you may have to guide me to the video, but I think I've got to figure out how to show on the stream what you're talking about. So we'll give it a shot.
やっぱり無駄だったわ、青子。
Her words only reached the white flowers around her. Aoko knew Shojyrou too well, so she wanted Alice to stop him. If he tried to interfere in the battle against Touko, she could not protect him this time. But it was too late to celebrate Aoko's judgment now. The girl in black had no intention of going after him. She simply sat for a while, gazing forlornly at the transcendent flower garden. Oh man, Aoko's in there just kicking ass. A storm of magic bullets struck down a hail of lightning blades. A mage's workshop is their home base and last line of defense. It featured an abundance of defensive spells designed to cut down brazen challengers and thieves. The old school building was no exception, painstakingly rigged by the puppet master and rune mage Touko Awazaki. A reflection of her bizarre obsessions, the workshop was set to indiscriminately destroy any intruders.
足止めぐらいは果たせバカモン。
Touko complained as she ran down the hallway, activating her traps along the way. But nothing seemed to work. None of the runes, regardless of their quality or quantity, could slow her sister down. Her reaction speed and ability to predict attacks could only be described as transcendent. Every magic bullet she fired from both her arms were too much, destroying the runes and the very walls that housed them.
「それで一人前のつもりか単細胞め」「熟成したところで壊すことしかできないとは呆れたな」
I think at this point, Touko's just jealous. As she spat out her words, the ceiling opened, increasing the pressure. Invisible walls popped up in the hallway. Aoko stopped and swung her right leg upward. Straight towards the ceiling. Her foot cut through the thick air like a knife through butter, shattering the ceiling and the runes along with it.
あんたの方こそいつまで経ってもこの凝り性。どこもかしこもルーンだらけ。少しは遠慮ってもんがないの？宇宙要塞張りに改造してんじゃないっての？みんなの思い出の校舎なんだからもっと大切に扱いなさいよね。
You're the one blowing it up, though. Except you see the one exploding the building there, Aoko. The wooden boards along the hallway that had withstood decades of wind and snow were now destroyed. Aoko charged forward. The chaos was inevitable. While Touko's runes cursed living creatures, Aoko's magic bullets destroyed all without prejudice.
優雅さのかけらもない。あんなのが自分の妹だと思うと。
Touko would do anything to change her blood, but there was more pressing matters at hand. The girl rushing her now was not the sister she remembered, but rather a more complete version of her. Touko couldn't afford to let her guard down for a second. But this is supposed to be magic. Localizing time travel, Touko didn't believe that was the true nature of the Aozaki magic. Aoko's transformation had to be a mere product of true magic. She could not make heads or tails out of its depths, even with Aoko having achieved it. At the very least, it was not a simple miracle. After all, the contempt and time travel was already made possible through the second magic. No, I would not say contempt of time travel. The concept of time travel was not made possible through the second magic. The second magic being kaleidoscope, and that allows you to jump to know of and travel between parallel universes. Don't ask. Record manipulation, versions of possibilities, and so forth involved operation of parallel worlds. So there was no way that could be the fifth magic.
となると、次に出てくる疑問はこれか。青子、貴様、 その10年分の時間をどこから持ってきた？
あのボンクラからよ。悪い。
That moron outside got a
後
problem.
で
Love
返
it.
すんだから、あんたに非難される覚えはありませんけど。
That made sense. There was bias, but the amount of time on its axis had not been changed.
ではあの5分間はどうする？まさか私を始末した後、彼を元の状態に戻すのか
Aoko stopped in her tracks. Touko had took aim at Aoko's glaring oversight. Awazaki magic and Aoko's humanity were inconsistent.
そうだ、時間操作では死者の蘇生は許されない。お前がしたことは一時だけの気休めか。
Okay, well, like I said, I think I figured out how to do it on stream, so when we're done, we'll go take a look at that. The magic crest on Touko's back began to demonstrate their true worth. Drawing upon the magical energy stored in the crest, she materialized her largest trap yet in the hallway.
.あるいはより罪深い暴虐ということだ。
Three rune stones appeared. Their scale and level of magic were wildly different from the other runes. Created by Touko herself at the Mages Association, they were replicas of one of the lost primordial runes created by a Nordic giant. The three thin crystalline lenses amplified her curved runes tens of millions of times. They rendered projectiles like magic bullets ineffective. Even if Aoko's magic output far exceeded Touko's, these giant slabs were several times more powerful still. Aoko's signature magecraft could only release magical energy, so she had no way to defend or even evade their attack.
Main, set.
Pushing herself on, Aoko took a deep breath of resolve. Instead of defending or dodging, she went low and charged into the rune storm. Not if she doesn't want to. Infuriated by the realization, Touko set her magical crest to full power. Through repeated second-long bursts of time travel, Aoko was able to avoid the runes completely. She was either sending the impacts to a different time, or layering several thousands of herself atop one another. Salad eating time, huh?
1枚目
Aoko kicked the crystal slab to pieces. 2 remain, distance 30 feet. Touko had 10 seconds of magical energy left, but that was all she needed. Aoko, on the other hand, would stop now if she had any common sense as a mage. She couldn't continue breaking the rules for much longer. Then again, time travel itself was breaking the rules.
Aoko!
Once again, Aoko used the same technique. Touko's suspicion turned into white-hot hatred. She couldn't care less about her time travel formula. It was the amount of magical energy she had. Where was she pulling the energy necessary to jump through time for so long?
やはりそうか。お前
It was the death of Shojyrou Suzuki. If she had brought him back five minutes to when he was still alive, where would those 5 minutes go? Aoko's magic wasn't using parallel worlds to change this one. She had only rewound Shojirou's 5 minutes. Then, logically, he'd return to being a corpse as soon as the magic ended. Time travel that did not change the world could not change the past. Therefore, if she wanted to save him, she had to either truly resurrect him or send those 5 minutes of reality somewhere far away without returning them.
2枚目
Aoko showed no sign of slowing. From behind her crystal barrier, Touko glared at Aoko with disdain.
答えろアオコ貴様彼の時間をどこにやった。そこにあった熱量の帳尻をどうやって合わせている。そんなの知るか。あいつの時間なら遥かな未来に置いてきたわよ。
He just lobbed it somewhere into the distant future. Damn. 15 feet to go. Faced with such madness, Touko wanted to cover her eyes. She put the debt of the present in the distant future? A time paradox would have been more humane. Such an enormous, hazardous consumption of heat could not be allowed. After all, time travel alone required a massive amount of energy. Magical energy was required to bring things from somewhere to somewhere, or bring things from somewhere else. At the same time, losing something that exists here consumed an incredible amount of energy. And what about the magical energy used for cooling? If either fell out of equilibrium, it would mean total chaos. Then distortion caused by her magic could come to affect this entire sector of space.
ここに極まったな。何千億年後に来る宇宙の死滅、人類の行く末に待つデッドエンドにさらなる負債を押し付ける気か。この星の頭上に隕石を作っているようなものだぞ。というか、お前の重みでこの星を押しつぶす気か。
That last comment made Aoko's eyes widen. Her very step exerted such force it broke the floorboards beneath her.
その時はその時で、今度は負債を過去に送ってやるわよ。それなら文句ないんでしょ。歪みに潰されるのは過去だけなんだから。
それで解決したつもりか。現在が確定している以上、過去を消滅させてもいいと。それでいいのは私たちだけだ。問題の総量、宇宙の負債はどうする。
Exactly. Even if the universe were closed or the present were still expanding, the absurd increase in heat consumption would become uncontrollable. That which waits for the end of infinite expansion, infinite consumption, and infinite growth in its future without hope. The nothingness before creation. Eventually, the universe would burn up.
青子の青崎の魔法はその結末をより確かなものにするだけだ。その責任をお前は。
言われなくても分かってる。責任なんて私が生きてる間に何とかするわよ。
Oh, that's our girl Aoko. We'll deal with this now. We'll think about consequences. I don't know. Never. 5 feet to go. The rune blast now carrying all of Touko's hatred focused into a scorching, hot laser beam. Her body being torn into by the intense heat, and her emotions raging, Aoko drove her foot into the ground.
責任を取ると言ったな。ではその具体案は。
そんなのこれから考えるに決まってるでしょ。
I said I'd figure it out, didn't I? Oh god. Yeah, I'll worry about it later. Kick your butt now, worry about consequences later.
最悪だ。
Well, there goes your last mirror, your crystal rune thingy. Touko's last defense was shattered. Close enough to connect, the two mages unleashed their magecraft. Red runes, blue ether. In a cascade of magic bullets, Touko Awazaki's crests were torn to pieces, and so was Touko herself. It was just as Alice said. By the time Shojyrou arrived, it was already over. Oh, bad. It's 20 to 8. Hey, Dawson, do you have any idea about how much is left? The old school building wooden boards had survived the elements for decades, but they were not ready for a mage duel. The entrance door hung off its hinges. The floorboards groaned. The stairs were ready to collapse underfoot. Touko's escape and Aoko's pursuit had left a trail of destruction leading all the way to the second floor. The chaos continued to the end of the hallway by the stairs at the third floor. Touko sat in a heap with her back against the wall. Despite her injuries, she kept her eyes firmly on Aoko. She was bleeding internally and had multiple broken bones. She would not be moving anytime soon. Possibly damaged by Aoko's flying kick, her magic eyes had been ruptured from within, closing them indefinitely. So there's still 2 chapters left then, is what you're saying. Despite her shattered, broken body, she was still breathing steadily, a testament to her stubbornness. Before her stood Aoko, staring down at her, uninjured.
屋上までは持つと思っていたんだが。
Well, if there's still two chapters left, I may save those last 2 chapters for one more stream. Touko was not trying to be facetious. She sounded genuinely disappointed. Aoko responded with a cold glare. Huh. Is it worth saving the last chapter? Like, finishing up here real quick and saving the last chapter for another stream? What do you guys think in the chat? Is it worth it for you guys? Her azure eyes had not changed one bit. Or should we just soldier through to the end of the novel? They were callous as ever, yet undeniably beautiful. From where she stood, Aoko held her hand out towards Touko. Like a hunter about to put a wounded prey out of its misery. The victor was decided. The mage came to steal land and got a death sentence for her trouble. Because I have to admit, Kitty is starting to get very hungry. It's been almost 3 hours stream, so I'm wondering if there's enough of this chapter and the last one left to make it worth doing one more stream. The silence was disquieting. Moonlight peered through the demolished ceiling, illuminating the 2 sisters with its stare. The utterly mad sibling squabble was over. Now the fireworks were finished, and the cold wind had returned to claim the old school building.
何か言い残すことはある?
Aoko's voice cut through the silence. Thanks, Dawson. Appreciate it. If leaving the last chapter or whatever is only gonna be like a half hour, 45-minute stream, I don't really see much of a point in scheduling a stream just for that. Touko thought for a moment, before lightly patting her coat pocket. Nothing, she found.
最後に一服と思ったが、あいにくお前を待っている間に吸い切ってしまってね。日本のタバコはうますぎていけない。
Really? Japanese cigarettes taste good? Huh. Who knew? Aoko gave a small nod.
なかなか常人には真似できない遺言だったわ。
待て待て。いくら私でも遺言まで謎かけをする気はないよ。おのぞ。
Touko's voice was laden with sarcasm, but not hostility or hatred. Perhaps her vendetta was not directed at Aoko herself, but rather a product of two sisters born into a mage family.
青崎の魔法が時間旅行に端を発するものとは思わなかった。まだ事情がありそうだが、当事者ではない私には何ともね。ボンプにはわからない悩みだ。せいぜい大事に付き合っていけばいいさ。しかし10年経ってもそれでは先が思いやられる。アリスは何をしていたんだか。
The fact that it took you 10 years to figure out how to beat me? Yeah, I suppose.
アリスにしてはよく付き合ってくれた方よ。魔術師としてはいつまでも半人前っていうのが彼女の結論。けどまあ、そうね。あの狼とならいい勝負をしたんじゃない？
あれはダメだ。敗北を知ってしまった。もう完全じゃない。半人前に値で勝っていようが、魔法の前には得意性を見失うだろう。ところで、お前の魔法とやらは手段か、それとも
Is it
結果か。
cause or is it effect? Touko wanted to know if it came before or came after. Did Aoko need magic to get her where she needed to go? Or did she obtain magic as a result of reaching that place?
あとよ。私は扉の前で尻尾を巻いたから、ジジイの思惑なんて知らないけど。
第一魔法と同じ経緯か。ますます業が深い。第2から第4はその場所へ到達するために生み出されたものと聞く。同族嫌悪は世の常だ。いずれ第一と食い合わなければいいのだがね。しかし扉ときたか。魔法の継承とはパスの継承のようだな。ではやはりここにユミルの入り口があると。
北欧かぶれのあなたにとってはね。私にとっては赤社の門と言えるものよ。最初からそれを狙っていたんでしょ、あなたは。
Touko used every ounce of strength she could find to nod. Seriously? The extra after story chapter is 10 hours friggin' long? You gotta be shitting me. It can't be one chapter, 10 hours?
望めば手に入るというのに何台も待つのは嫌だったんだ。ソフトはそれで決別したようなものだったよ。青崎に対する復讐心はそれには優先されなかった。
Oh, because it's its own story kind of thing. Okay.
まあ全ては終わったことだ。もう語る必要はない。最後に根源に触れた感想が聞きたいな。
Touko spoke after taking a deep breath. Her last words showed no trace of hatred. Aoko remained silent as she began raising her right hand up high. She recalled her grandfather's orders, the source of true magic. Revealing one's knowledge or impressions of the root was strictly forbidden. But this was her sister's dying wish. Maybe it would be okay. The conversation would end the moment she brought her arm down. Then this rooting shell of a building would become her sibling's tomb. What harm could it do? And it's not like she planned to follow her grandfather's rules anyway.
白状するとね、姉さん。
Aoko's voice carried through the blue hallway.
正直、全然わからなかったわ。
Aoko gave a blunt reply and brought her arm down like a bolt of lightning. Or at least she tried to. Except Shojyrou won't let her. Her arm wouldn't listen. It wouldn't budge.
何のつもり？
Cursing Alice, Aoko spat her question with venom. Shojyrou materialized from behind her, taking hold of her raised arm. Though unable to express it, Touko was shocked to see him too.
手、離して。
Without looking at him or even at her restrained hand, Aoko spoke sternly, her eyes forward. Come to think of it, at the amusement park, he appeared out of nowhere to protect her from that puppet.
聞こえなかった。二度はないわよ。
He was not bluffing. If he interfered, even he would be given no mercy. I've decided to let you live. It would go against that promise, but he should know better. Even so, he maintained his grip on her arm.
いい加減に。
Aoko turned around. The word told caught in her throat. She immediately regretted looking at him. She saw herself in his expression. Mournful sadness. Judgmental anger. His conflicted emotions spoke of her own internal struggle. Voiceless, quiet, without violation. Without volition. Rustic gray eyes, questioning a deep sin.
言いたいことがあるならはっきり口にしなさい。
What do you mean, what am I thinking of doing?
それができないなら消えて。
Shojyrou gently released Aoko's arm as she maintained her resolve. They locked eyes, neither friend nor foe. Their bitterness clashed without words. And then suddenly,
人殺しはいけないことだ。
Shojyrou stated in a matter-of-fact way in which Aoko had become all too familiar. His words were empty, trite even, and yet, given her current state, they reached her. Although she would soon forget the fragment of Shojirou's memories, they made her painfully aware of how he felt. Still, she could not agree with him. It would come back to bite her if she let Touko go now. Her sister would come for her again. Oh, am I gonna save the after story for like another? Well, it depends. I'll ask you guys. I guess that's kind of up to you guys in the viewers and in the chat and whatnot. If you guys want me to do when we're done the story here, if you guys want me to do the like after story for this one before we move on to the next game, I'm perfectly willing to do that. You guys just got to let me know if that's what you want. She had already made 2 attempts on her life. Aoko did not have it in her to forgive her sister for what she had done. Above all, just as Touko said, if Aoko did not change, she would be a novice forever. You really want me to do the after story, huh? She had not even won her first mage battle yet, and she knew putting down a blood relative would require even more conviction. Like I said, if that's what the viewers want, and I'm perfectly happy to do that. Nevertheless, his words echoed over and over in her heart. Murder is wrong. Such a childish phrase, but the emphasis with which he said it was enough to make her sick. Resting, Aoko glowered at Shojyrou.
だから殺されたくせにその相手までかばうっていうのあんたは。元気になったら懲りずにやってくる殺人鬼が相手でも見逃してやれっていうの？
まさかそこまで言ったら聖者だ。自分にはそこまでのことは言えない。
But he would probably still let her go. He did not think that Touko would change. He also did not care to rationalize her actions based on her life. He was simply thankful that this person before him was still alive. He seemed pretty damn saintly to me. That was what had made Aoko so angry. His overwhelming innocence and self-righteousness enraged her like the Hall of Mirrors was happening all over again. The only difference was now she knew why he was acting like this. It was because she had taken part of him. He took a step forward, passing by her, saying words he knew he should not.
仕返しなら殺された人間がやるのが筋だろう。君を止められないのは分かってる。だから青崎がやるぐらいなら俺がやる。
It was difficult to discern who was the more pathetic in all of this. Touko, who had been staring at them the whole time, closed her other eye and was drifting off to sleep.
ごめんなさい、トウコさん。
Knowing her fate, Touko dropped her head as best she could as he walked over to her.
そうだな。君にはそれもいいかもしれない。今は特殊な状況だから、冷めた後に君がどれほど悔やむことになるか想像もできない。ただ、それで君の停滞は終わるだろう。気に食わないのは、それを決意させたのが私ではなかったということぐらいか。
He knew that Shojyrou could not understand, her words hanging in the air. She closed her lips tightly. then weakly stuck out her slender neck. Shojyrou took another step forward. Before he could do anything, Aoko moved. Spinning in front of Shojyrou, she cut off her magical energy and swung her hand as hard as she could. The sound of her slapping his face echoed through the hall along with his staggering footsteps.
青崎。
卑怯者。
Tears of anger welling in her eyes, Aoko turned back to Shojyrou. Sulking as though she would kill him as soon as she looked at him
他人
again.
の記憶を取り込んだ代償か。引きずられたな、青子。
そうよ。自分の意志を人に曲げられるのがこんなに悔しいなんて知らなかった。
That was about all Aoko could mutter in response. The corners of Touko's lips curled in a grin.
何がおかしいのよ、あなた。
いや、お前にも人並みの情けがあるとは思っていなくてね。
Honestly, I didn't think Aoko was capable of normal human compassion either.
バカ呼ばわりは訂正しておくよ。他人の理想を背負うのに怯えるなんて、10年経っても可愛いじゃないか。
あんたね。
そう睨むな。今のは心からの賛辞だ。で、私をどうする？彼に
仕方ないでしょ。あなたの言う通り、これが何よりの代償だったんだから。
Aoko said begrudgingly, shooting Shojyrou a sideways glance. He seemed to have recovered from the slap, and his usual absent-minded look had returned. He may have no memories of his past, but his morals and values were too deep to be erased. Shojyrou was trying to violate those. It would eat away at him forever. Okay, if I don't feel like doing the after story, you don't mind moving on to the next game. Even if I do want to, like I said, I'm really enjoying this one. So I mean, I might just do it just because this is such a good novel. And he would be doing it not for himself, but for Aoko. Alright. Hopefully I should be wrapping up soon. I hope. I'm getting kind of hungry too. But yeah, thanks for coming out to the stream. Aoko understood this all too well. The moment he said he would do it was the moment he lost. Not stopping him would be no different than watching him die. And she would lose something important inside her. Aoko did not want that to happen.
青崎、やっぱり自分の受けた傷は自分で返さないと気が済まない性格か？
Aoko ignored Shojyrou, who seemed to have gotten the wrong idea. Instead, she directed her scowl at Touko, who still lay collapsed in front of her.
わかったわよ。トウコ、今回は見逃してあげる。けど、ただで帰れるとは思ってないわよね。
Touko scowled at her little sister, standing smugly over her.
祖父のところに突き出すのならここで引導を渡してくれ。
まさか。私もあの人には会いたくないもの。あなたにはこのまま出て行ってもらうわ。邪魔もしないし、教会に届けも出さない。
Leave and don't come back.
律子は私が言い含めておくから、今回の件は私たちだけの秘密よ。
Touko's brow creased further. There had to be a catch.
青子、何を企んでいる。
別に。その代わりに呪いをプレゼントしようと思って。今まで散々ガンド食らってきたし、おあいこでしょ。まあ、私のはちょっと強力だけど。
What do you mean save the ending and come back? What, you mean stop the stream now and then do another stream?
今後この土地に入ろうものなら、マダガスカルガエルになってもらうわ。
I doubt there's enough of the story left to make another stream for just the ending worth it. Smiling as if they had arranged to eat Chinese food tomorrow night, Aoko walked toward Touko.
はて、なんでそういうものだけ習得してるんだ、お前は。
そりゃ師匠がアリスだもの。偏るのは当然でしょ。
The elder Awazaki's sister's brow knitted so hard it could have produced a sweater. Perhaps this was why her sister would stay a novice forever.
宗十郎、席外して。覗き見が趣味なら別に見ていってもいいけど。
As she spoke, she began removing her sister's overcoat. The uncomfortable look in Touko's eyes, compared to the strangely cheerful one in Aoko's, caused Shojyrou to hesitate. Oh, I won't be doing the after story tonight. That's for even starting it tonight.
覗き見は確かにいい趣味じゃないな。
I would think that this should be wrapping up fairly quickly, yeah? Muttering more to himself than anything, he ducked into an empty classroom.
なんだそのブサイクで悪趣味な術式は。センスがないにも程がある。お前本当に私の妹か。
ええ、この通り芸術的才能は全部姉貴に持っていかれた哀れな妹でして、嘆くなら自分の天才性を嘆きなさいと。
Down the cold, dilapidated hallways, cries of sadness, joy, and anguish rang out. Outside, the fully bloomed white flower petals floated one by one into the night. Standing among the ballet of petals, Alice gazed up at the sky. The blossoms gathered into a cloud, then slowly vanished as though falling asleep. Soon, not a single flower would remain, and the clearing would return to a snowy tundra. The magic had ended. In a matter of minutes, the past would return to its rightful place. Along with it, the time shared between the boy and the girl. The old school building was still. Alice embraced the silence and patiently waited. After a while, Shojyrou emerged from the building and Alice released a puff of white breath. A small sigh of relief. It was over. Shojyrou approached, carrying Aoko, cradling her in his arms. She was asleep, her eyes were closed, and she seemed peaceful. Her hair and limp body dangled like silk, like a silk drape. She looked just like Sleeping Beauty.
待っていてくれたんだ、アリス。
He said, holding Aoko with little effort. Alice nodded.
トウコさんはどうなったの？
いや、よくわからないけど、トウコさんは帰ったよ。青崎が言うには、そう簡単に解除できない呪いをかけたから、向こう10年は三崎市には入ってこれないって。その後、トウコさんが尻尾を巻くのを仁王立ちで見届けて、見えなくなったらそのまま倒れたんだ。
Alice's response was brief, as she was wondering if things were really so simple. She seemed more concerned about Touko than Aoko, which made Shojyrou concerned about Alice and Aoko's relationship more than anything.
それはともかくとして、青子はどうなっているんだろう。
He asked nonchalantly as they looked at Aoko breathing deeply in her sleep.
矛盾と清純を合わせているのね。彼女の時間は今の時間とは異なってしまったから。歯車を合わせるまで目は覚めないわ。
Shojyrou nodded, understanding very clearly, still not comprehending a word Alice had just said.
なんか拍子抜けしたよ。結局、トウコさんと青崎、どっちが勝ったのかよくつかめない。
I can't tell if Awazaki or Miss Touko won.
そうね。魔術師の争いには明確な点数はつけられないから。トウコさんの大目的が青崎の魔法の解明なら、魔法を使わされた時点で青子の負けよ。その後のいざこざは、
Yeah, my question, Dawson, is how much of like the actual story is left for this stream? Like, because I'm starting to get really freaking hungry here. I almost need this to end like in the next 10 minutes or something. Alice said she had turned her sights to the forest. Even Shojyrou could tell that even Shojyrou could tell that that was Alice's way of saying, let's go home.
そうだね。青崎もアリスも、このままじゃ風邪をひく。ああ、それと、青崎がトウコさんに呪いをかけるとき、何かしてたんだけど。
Shojyrou trailed off, hoping Alice would tell him what it was, but a stony hand... Shojyrou trailed off, hoping Alice would tell him what it was, but a stony and somewhat affected gaze was her response.
見たの？しずきくん。
いや、青崎が出てけって。
そう。それで、青子はどんな呪いをかけたの？
カエルがどうとか。
Shojirou's explanation made Alice's expression darken. Aoko was still a long way from learning any sort of polymorph spells.
そう。
Her thoughts prevented her from finishing the sentence. In actuality, it was perfectly within Aoko's abilities, considering where she was in time at that moment. As Aoko said, Touko would not be able to dispel the curse for 10 years. And Aoko of this time had not the ability to use such a curse, which meant Touko did not have anyone to rebound the curse to. No matter how much she researched dispelling powerful curses, she could not do it with Aoko out of this
青子がトウコさんにつけたのは切り傷ぐらいだから、 しずきくんが心配するようなことはないわ。青子にしては随分と生ぬるい処置だけど。
After her slightly unsettled remark, Alice quietly began to walk. Shojyrou followed her, Aoko in his arms. Together they left the clearing and moved into the forest. As they did, Shojyrou abruptly froze.
しず
Oh,
きくん、
come on! This needs to stop dragging itself out! He looked back. No, not. I don't need to know how many hours the next chapter is. I need to know how much time is left on this chapter. Actually, if there's still 3 hours left before the, after story stuff, I'm just gonna end it here. Was it homesickness he felt? Though this was only the second time seeing it, he had a nostalgic feeling like he would never be back. He looked like a child saying goodbye to an old toy that was to be thrown away. Seeing his expression, Alice felt a hint of sympathy and chided herself.
あの荒れ地がどうかした？
Oh my god. She asked him, watching the flowery garden fade into a snowy field. Shojyrou shook his head.
なんとなく知っている場所に似てる気がして。おかしいな。やってきた時はそんな気はしなかったのに。
And then there's 3 hours of the next chapter. Is that what you're saying, Dawson? 30 more minutes of this one, and then 3 hours of the next chapter? He stared at the tundra for what seemed like an eternity, reluctant to leave. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do then is I'm going to call it here. I'm going to call this stream here. And we'll go, we'll save this. Alright, give me a second here, and we'll see if we could go take a look at your anime list. Just give me a second to get things going here. Okay. Oh, what the heck? I had it working. Now why won't it? Okay. All right. We made it to Dai's channel. Now we just gotta find the right video. Sorry, just a second here. I'm still looking for. Come chat with Daikun and Ari-chan. Let's see if we could. Come chat with Daikun and Ari-chan. RE4 localization fails. Here it is right here. All right, we'll open that one. Okay, so you said it's about an hour or so in, huh? Uh, 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 48 seconds. Is this your anime list right here, Dawson? Is that your anime list right there? I don't know, it's still... Okay. It should be showing your anime list. Yeah? Is this it, Dawson? That is a massive list of anime, my guy. That is a huge list. So, wow. One of the biggest anime lists I have ever personally seen, man. That's crazy. Alright, well, I think what we'll do is we'll call it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to the stream. I should have. Yeah, I had a Fate Samurai Remnant come out yesterday, so if you haven't checked that out, please go check that out. And I'll have a One Piece Odyssey coming out on Friday, so be looking forward to that. Alright guys, well we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for meow. You only watch 120 anime. Yeah, no small number there. Alright guys, again thanks for coming out. See you in the next one. Bye everyone!